Elias Iagnemma is back on Burden of Dreams and appears very close to sending the world's original V17 or 9A boulder. Kai Lightner makes the first ascent of Death of Villains, a 515A or 9A plus sport climb in Utah. And well, we have several other amazing first ascents to talk about today too, including what may be the hardest moonboard problem ever done. My name is August. Welcome to August Climbing. It is time for the comment of the week, which of course comes from last week's video. This one is from Junyu Zhang 414. Love how you included other notable climbers and Instagram sends. These videos are awesome. Always want more. 30 minutes next time. Thank you so much, Junyu, and sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I really appreciate the feedback. I try hard to include a variety of notable sends in these videos to showcase the global climbing community. And you bring up an interesting idea. Would you all be interested in seeing an occasional, say, 30-minute episode packed with more sends? You can be honest in the comments and let me know what you think. Is 10-ish minutes your jam, or would you be more interested in seeing a longer episode from time to time? Now let's jump right in with Elias Iagnemma. We ended last week's episode noting that Elias is ready for a new season on Burden of Dreams. We now have confirmation from Elias on Instagram that he is indeed in Lapnor, Finland, and has resumed his projecting of this V17 boulder problem. In what appears to be his first session back, he made an incredible link from one move in to the top of the boulder. He says, back in Finland, really good feeling after the first move, 2 days rest for the skin, and try from the ground. Notably, he uses a really interesting beta here that is quite different from Nali Hukataival, Will Bosi, or even Simon Lorenzi, the 3 other climbers who have sent this V17. Perhaps we should do a beta breakdown video in the near future to further unpack these differences. Elias previously spent time projecting Burden of Dreams, both in replica form and on the real rock. He visited Burden as far back as October of 2022, but struggled with poor weather and a finger injury at that time. Since then, he's been coming back every spring and fall season to Burden of Dreams, and well, I'd say there's a pretty good chance that this is the season where he sends it. All the best to Elias, and stay tuned for more updates on this. Next up, we've got Kai Lightner, who recently made the first ascent of Death of Villains, a 515A or 9A plus sport climb. This sport climb is located in a very steep limestone cave called the Hurricane near Hurricane, Utah. On March 1st, Lightner shared on Instagram, "Figured I'd end Black History Month with a little Black history of my own. I have never projected or trained for a climb this hard, and I wasn't even sure what level I was aiming for. I just knew I had to train hard. Immediately when I showed up, I knew I was prepared. The climb shares the same first half of Life of Villains, and that is a 514D sport climb that Kai Lightner repeated back in November." He continues here, and branches right to a lengthy 180-degree bouldery section that tests your power endurance to the limit. I was intensely emotionally invested in this process, and each attempt made me feel closer to the send. I screamed, I cried, and ultimately, on the last day of the trip, on my last attempt, I sent. This climb feels like a substantial step up from Life of Villains. I was incredibly lucky to work this route with a person who bolted it, Joel Kinder, who envisioned it in 2019 and has graded it 515A. He goes on to further express his gratitude to Joel Kinder, or is it Kinder? Then on March 5th, Kai shares this reel of a very key crux section on the route. The first crux of Death of Villains coincides with Life of Villains and consists of basically a V10 boulder problem with lots of twisting. My biceps had to be on for this part. In this post, he also notes that a full-length video of the send will be coming at some point. It sounds like they're going to make something pretty awesome out of that footage. And of course, we'll all be eagerly anticipating that. So huge congrats to Kai Lightner on this send. And now let's talk about a bouldering first ascent from Toru Nakajima. He has named this problem Regret, and notes, perhaps somewhat reluctantly, that it may be a V16 or 8C plus climb. On March 3rd, Toru shared on Instagram, "So I finally finished up this project on the right side of Emotion V14 in Enna, Japan. It started off with high 2 crisps," or perhaps he meant crimps, "and then it was just 3 moves to the top with my beta. Took me over 20 days to connect these 3 moves together. Spending 20 days on just 3 moves in freezing cold is something I will never forget. But wow, those 20 days were something else. Hands down, it was the hardest climbing challenge I've faced. But if you asked me the grade, I couldn't tell you. It feels harder than Lucid Dreaming, V15, and Bishop, which is kind of similar, but then again, who's to say if a 3-move V16 is a thing? Hopefully someday I will know about this problem." It's so cool to hear about his commitment to figure out these 3 moves, and I'd say a 3-move V16 could definitely be a thing. Hopefully this first ascent from Toru Nakajima will get some well-deserved attention, and perhaps we'll see some other pro climbers out there projecting it in the near future. Next up, we have what might be the hardest MoonBoard send of all time. This comes from Simon Hibbeler, a climber born in and based out of the Midwest part of the United States, the same part of the US that I come from. In January of this year, Simon began posting about a Project 3 on the MoonBoard 2016 hold set. Essentially, it's an eliminate of Project 2, a benchmark set by Alex Migos in 2016. Project 2 is already one of the hardest benchmarks on the board with a user grade of V13 or 8B, and it only has 49 logged repeats. Project 3, on the other hand, removes the second to last hold, A16, making for a much further throw to the final hold. Simon continued working on this project in January and February, and then let's take a look at his post from March 2nd. Well then, Project 3 is done and over with. Pretty hyped. At Moon Climbing, can we add V15 to the board? In all seriousness, I don't know what the grade is. V14 minimum in my humble opinion. Wow. At the moment, the highest grade that you can select on the MoonBoard app is V14 or 8B+. But let's see, Moon Climbing may have to add a new option in the dropdown. If you have a 2016 MoonBoard at your gym, you probably know how tiny most of these yellow holds on the board are. Just insane to think of doing such dynamic moves from these holds. Congrats to Simon Hibbeler on sending this Project 3, and best of luck on his USA climbing comp. Next up is David Fitzgerald, who recently sent the V15 or 8C boulder Lucid Dreaming. This is the same boulder problem that Toru Nakajima referenced in his post. This climb is located on the iconic Grandpa Peabody boulder in the Buttermilks near Bishop, California. This boulder problem saw its first ascent all the way back in 2010 by Paul Robinson. David Fitzgerald shares on Instagram, "Lucid Dreaming, February 18th, 2024. Huge thanks to everyone for the support and to Harrison Voorhees for capturing the moment so perfectly." And indeed, these are some great photos from an iconic bouldering problem. Congrats to Fitzgerald on this send, and he's not the only one hanging out at the Grandpa Peabody boulder. Shawn Raboutou posted a reel on March 2nd saying, "A fun technique for trying steep highballs without pads. The Process V16, Bishop, California." And we see Shawn here working on another classic problem on this boulder. This time a Daniel Woods 2015 first ascent. If I was ever going to do a highball boulder, this is definitely how I would want to do it. First, get familiar with the moves and build confidence while roped up. Though in this case, it seems that Shawn is primarily using this method due to lack of crash pads with him at the time. Now, can this even be an August climbing video if we don't talk about Will Bosi? Well, he posted a pretty awesome bouldering flash from his trip to the US. He shared this one on March 6th saying, "Wet Dream V12/8A+ flash. Incredible problem, which I was very happy to flash right after sending Return of the Sleepwalker, as I had been watching people try it for weeks. Photos of me fighting my way through the classic finger lock sequence. At Wide Boys, one for you guys. This classic boulder is an Ethan Pringle first ascent, and it's also located in Red Rock, Black Velvet Canyon, like Return of the Sleepwalker. And according to Will Bosey's bouldering log on 8a.nu, he literally flashed this boulder problem on the same day that he sent Return of the Sleepwalker. So a V17 send and a V12 flash on the same day? Why not? What an amazing day of climbing he had on February 19th. Now, last week we had talked about Jorge Díaz-Rullo's third ascent of Sleeping Lion, and at that time he had not yet fully shared his thoughts regarding the grade. But now he has, so let's take a look at his post from February 29th. Sleeping Lion grade part 2. I feel really responsible with my decision of the grade, and I know it shouldn't be that way, but even so, I feel a bit stressed. It would be very easy to not listen to what people think, follow Alex's latest opinion, or say I climbed another 9B+. It's been hard, but I've been trying to avoid all of this before making a decision. Based on the whole process and my experience on these levels, if I had to choose a personal grade in relation to my body and my climbing style, I think it could be a 9B in the hard range, and I think it could become confirmed in this grade. I've climbed 6 9Bs and 2 9B+ before, and that's all I can compare it to at the moment. But I'm really curious to know what the following repeaters will think about the difficulty, because I think it depends a lot on the style and morphology of each one. This can sometimes make a big difference. So Chris Sharma's Sleeping Lion appears to be settling at that 9B grade rather than the originally proposed 9B+, and whatever the grade is, it's definitely an inspiring line. Also be sure to check out Díaz-Rullo's YouTube channel for the premiere of his Bibliographie 9B+ send. By the time this video is published, Jorge's premiere will likely have been up for just a few hours. I'm really excited to see this full send footage from October of last year, and I'm sure you are as well. What's your favorite piece of climbing news from this week? And hey, my name is August. Thank you so much for watching.